Wow. The Division 2 is burning. What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to another Division 2 video. If you happen to be new to the channel or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. Reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that's uploaded. Well, it's official. The sky is falling. Well, or is it? Well, we know that some people are currently outside throwing their discs into trash cans and pretty much having them on old-fashioned game burning. But is it really as bad as a lot of these players, or I guess most of all content creators, make it out to be? Now let's look at both sides of the same coin. PvE folks don't want gear locked behind PvP, but it's okay to lock gear behind PvE. Okay, that's real logical. Eagle nerf is okay as long as it's only in PvP. It's never hurt anybody for PvE, so why touch it on PvE? That's what I constantly hear. And then you even have some content creators saying, well, PvP players just use it as a crutch because it makes even bad players gods. Okay, well, let's look at that same coin. You just stated that it's a crutch and it should be left alone for PvE. Well, on that same mindset, is it not then a crutch for PvE players if they want it left alone and want that godlike feeling just because it doesn't hurt anyone? But it does actually, because you're missing out on the rest of the community when you want things nerfed for some but left alone for you. That's not logical thinking at all. But so far, PvEers should be very happy. They're dancing just like this. On the other hand, PvPers have been waiting so long for this state of the game. The hype has been built up for so long, and then once state of the game gets here, they watch it, and all those hardcore players all the way back from Division 1 have waited so long, and after hearing it, they're walking out just like this. Then the rest of us OG players from all the way back in Division 1, we know what's going on. We're like,
oh shit, here we go again.
Because we've been down this road before. We have rid this roller coaster for so many years, thinking it was going to be different for Division 2. But time and time again, it just proves more of the same old, back riding the roller coaster. Then we come to Mr. Terry Spire, sitting there with his shit-eating grin, making the dude next to him pretty much do all the talking while he just sits there, fiddle his fingers, and he probably was working on that whiskey analogy for probably the last 3 hours, and then he finally gets to use it in the state of the game and pretty much got that ass backwards as well. And, you know, I'm sitting there, why are you smiling? Why are you sitting there with your shit-eating grin? I mean, I'm just like, because if this is what you built up for weeks on weeks, building the hype all the way up to talk about one extra new game mode for conflict and a few bells and whistles on menus and sounds, and then you want to, you know, try to say that, you know, what little bit of things that you stated as far as, you know, the supply drops and as far as, you know, new and interesting loot, you know, that's going to be delivered in those supply drops in the dark zone. But as we all know, the PvEers, like I already stated, aren't going to like that, because we all know that once you mention that content or new stuff is going to be hidden behind PvP areas, they're not going to have it. Just like the 515 gear that was brought out and mentioned, they backpedaled on that really fast, because the PvEers came in as like, why should we be forced to go into PvP environments? And then on the flip side of the coin, okay, well, they put the Eagle and, you know, these raid sets behind PvE content, and the PvPers were like, why, you know, lock these things behind PvE? And it's, you know, it's the same infighting back and forth, and basically this is what they want, because then it more or less takes the look off them, the ones that actually have the control over this, and makes this infight between one another, between PvPers and PvEers, to where, you know, they can do whatever they want to behind the scenes, and they're just sit back there, you know, with their maniacal laugh. Ha 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 ha, we done all this, but yet they're fighting amongst themselves, and this is exactly what is happening. So now let's come full circle and let's talk about the ETF Echo. And so you're meaning to tell me that all this stuff that's been unveiled in the last 2 weeks on both State of the Game, that this was all worked out in 3 days of an ETF Echo? I mean, how dumb do you think that the community is? I mean, in my opinion, you probably had all this stuff worked out because there was no transparency, no State of the Game for weeks and weeks. You were probably working all this, and then you're like, okay, let's do an ETF and, bring some players over. Let's give them a bunch of free stuff, pat them on their ass, shout out their channels, give them some hype, and let them be our yes men, and just let them, lap up and eat all this up like this, and then send them back, build the hype up, so that make all the other player bases think, oh, there's hope for this game, and this is what you give us. Like, really? Okay, that was a little harsh. Apologies to anybody's feelings that I hurt, but it still begs that question, that everybody's, asking themselves. But in the end, we shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves because, yes, we can give them our input, but how much of that input are they really actually listening to? I mean, we are all asking ourselves that question. Are they saying that they're listening and wanting our feedback when really they're not paying it any attention? And just wanting us to infight amongst ourselves and, point the blame at PvEers or point the blame at PvPers when we really have no control over what the devs do to this game. It's all on them. They have the final say-so. It's not necessarily on one, side of the coin and versus the other. It's not PvPers versus PvEers. We should be actually working together for the common goal and for the common good and for the love of the game. Because a lot of focus has been coming down mainly to the whole Eagle Bearer situation. And a lot of the good stuff that came out of the State of the Games over the last couple weeks in the PTS is flying, under the radar. That is actually the biggest and most exciting part that's come out from the game in quite a long time. And nobody's really talking about it. And for you PvPers out there, what is at the heart of PvP? Especially when it comes to the Division world. And that is its builds. The build diversity, player roles and squads, playing together as a single unit. When one build reflects off another and by themselves the builds are just mediocre. But yet when those builds are played together in a squad, it can be like really devastating. We actually will possibly have roles just like in Division 1 within our squads. And with these new buffs to the talents and making a lot of those talents more viable when, we pretty much steered clear of those talents before, now they're actually going to be, be good. They're actually going to be viable. So that way one, teammate can run this build and, while he's running that build, it's going to make other teammates' builds even stronger. So there's more cohesion and there's, role plays and what roles in squads are actually going to be viable and come back. So that's going to be a new life into the PvP, even though it was mostly talked about in the PvE portion of the State of the Game from last week, and this PvP from this State of the Game was kind of lackluster. But look at the big picture. If you just take little pieces of, like, say, a jigsaw puzzle, and just those pieces by themselves, you can't really see the full picture. But yet, if you link all those pieces together and then take a step back and look at the picture as a whole, then you can see it much, much better and see what really what it's worth and how it's actually going to be and actually what it is. So I'm actually looking forward to all these buffs and talents. It's going to bring out a lot more combinations, but still, it begs to differ. It's going to be a double heal meta unless they give us more counters for the double heals, the zigzag, the figure eights, dancing, and pistols, because we only have very little things. We have the sweet dreams, we have cloak talent, and then we have the pestilence. So if that's going to be a thing, then they still should be more counters to it, because we don't want to have just still the same old variations of the 311-7. People are just dropping more or less the pulse and just having double heals, and it becomes more of a heal off. But I am one that to be, yes, this is me, I'm going to be optimistic and hopeful. And no, I haven't drank the Kool-Aid. I'm not being paid to say this. I'm just looking back and taking a step back and looking at the picture as a whole, and not just, taking little sections here and there and pretty much, you know, just pinpointing and single them out, because that's just one portion. But when you put all the portions together, then we see the bigger picture. So I, for one, am actually being optimistic. Yeah, I was hoping maybe for, you know, the player base to actually increase the player count in the Dark Zone, maybe some, you know, DZ expansion, maybe some, you know, exciting new loot for the Dark Zone to where it can only be obtained in the Dark Zone and actually be something that's, you know, very valuable inside PvP areas, just like there are on PvE. I was hoping for that. You know, it still might come. We never know. But let's stop the infighting between and amongst ourselves and put the blame actually where it lies. Because at the end of the day, it all falls on Ubisoft massive shoulders. They make the final decisions on everything. We can only give our input. But, you know, I still am going to remain optimistic because I actually like some of the changes that are actually coming. Some are, you know, lackluster, and, you know, I was hoping for more. But, you know, at least after all this time that's passed, it is, you know, a good start finally. And I'm actually eager to get this build diversity and bring roles back into squads, especially on PvP. So even though it was more or less mentioned and went through on the PvE state of the game, you know, some of that stuff is still directly going to impact and help out the PvP side. So I'm just going to be me. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support. We are almost at 10K. Let's get that sub train going. Appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. We'll see you punching later.